No bugs, mission accomplished. No bugs at all, nothing. He caught all of them. There's no way that there's a bug in this time. Dude, what's this? What does it say? What does it say? It create. Get off the stage.
Oh! Oh shit! Terra Flare? Oh. Let's fucking go! Oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. That was fucking sick!
Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 200. Yeah, you got it. 241. Well, I can do it. I heard you talking. I was like, perfect. It's perfect, Pyro. No, it's okay. I forgive you, dude. 241. Today is September 11, 2021. If you haven't seen MogTalk before, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. And today we are going to be talking about lore. And of course, before we get too much into it, I'm going to introduce our guest. First, Pyro. Actually, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, dude.
Well, I'm Pyromancer.
Oh.
Final Fantasy now.
All right, say that one more time. Sorry, I didn't unmute you.
Oh, it's okay.
I didn't even
It's
realize
okay.
it. Because
I scuffed you, you scuffed me. It's a 1-for-1.
you know, this is the best opening I've ever had in my life. Go ahead, introduce yourself, Pyro.
My name is Pyromancer. I'm a Final Fantasy XIV streamer, a new one. I recently became a full-time Final Fantasy streamer. That doesn't mean I stream 40 hours a week, but I do stream on Tuesdays and Fridays over on my Twitch. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of lore stuff specifically, so I go through the story. I take notes down in a notebook, and that's what I do. So it's my second time here. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm actually really excited for this discussion based on our discussion last time. But before we get to that, I have a partner in crime here, Moose, who tries to make me not look as stupid when we talk about lore topics. Moose, could you tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, I'm Anonymoose. I'm a 14 player, and I don't even know how to do these introductions. I wing it every time. I never know what to say. I have been playing since Endgame was Coblins, and I answer a lot of lore questions, and somehow I end up here. That's pretty much how this goes. Let's just go with that. That's my intro for today.
You know
there
what?
you go. All right.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome. And also, just to throw that in there, Moose also did editing for the lore book, officially for Final Fantasy XIV. He also is considered one of the lore gods of Final Fantasy XIV that sticks to forms and is extremely impressive. And I think I've only seen him get tripped up by one question in lore.
So far.
Yeah.
Just put me on more shows. I'll trip up more.
Okay. All right. So to get us into this, I do want to check in with you, Pyro. Pyro, it's been like how many months? Like 2 months since you were on last time?
Since we first came on together, I think it was probably like 2-3 months. Then again, a month to me feels like a week right now. It's insane. So
a lot has changed.
It's been a while. Yeah. I just gotten into the game, and I'm still practically just getting into the game, but now I'm in Heaven's Ward. So
just getting into the game, but all the decor has changed there. I think in the background. The room looks a little different. Is that the Lominzen flag in the background?
Oh yeah, till C swallows all, baby. That's right. Oh, of course. Yeah. How to get that? And I took down all the WoW stuff, of course. Obviously, if you've seen the clip, you understand why that happened. The only thing that I kept up is the Lich King helmet, it's just because it's fucking awesome, honestly, because it was expensive, so I'm not going to put it in a box. So, and I just got it, so that's the one thing that I left, and everything else is Final Fantasy now with Final Fantasy books.
I mean, when we talked last time, we were like, hey, is this going to be something that you keep up with? And holy fuck, that's changed 100%. Yeah, you are definitely keeping up with it.
I'm excited.
I'm personally very excited because I want to see what that you're going to bring a lot to the lore community, I think, because people really love your energy, and your voice acting is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing to listen to. I had the pleasure of listening to it.
Thank you.
Agreed. We did because we did that first show together. Like every time something big happens with you, I get a bunch of DMs like, "Hey, guess what Pyro is up to?" So
Really?
yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. That's insane, dude. I can't believe the community in this game is in and around this game is just insane. I don't know. I think that's why that happens.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's extremely welcoming, especially to people who love story, because it's a very story-focused game. And I think that a lot of the players have been excited to see you here, and it's strange because now you're full-time Final Fantasy XIV streamer, right?
Yeah, and I'm putting out YouTube videos for it as well, and I quit my regular job selling or being a supervisor for a sales department at a retail store, and I said, fuck it, we're gonna go for it. And I have before, like I said, I was full-time before I started at that job, but now it's just a completely different ball game, different game, literally, different environment, different people, and it's pretty amazing this time around, dude. I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity to do something like this. There's no other way to put this. It's literally changing my life. So thank you to both of you, because you were very early to welcome me into this community and into this scene, and that means a lot to me. And for people watching, thank you guys as well, because without the support of the viewers, it wouldn't be a thing. So thanks.
Community is the name of the game for me. Like I like to use this word campfire a lot, because I have this image in my head of us all just kind of sitting around at a campfire, like very low stress, very like everybody getting along, drinking, just bullshitting, and like that's the vibe I try to keep at all times. And pretty much anybody who promotes that energy, I want to talk to all the time. Like those are the people I want around. So anybody that's like that, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, gotta spread that.
Man, I'm fucking feeling good already, dude. Already feeling good. Thank you, Pyro, for that.
yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, so we can go ahead and make sure we know where our kind of barrier is, kind of where we want to stay with spoilers and everything else. Can you just go ahead and let us know and everybody watching kind of where you are in the story?
So, spoiler alert for people who are not into Heavensward yet. You might want to mute this for a second, because I'm going to name characters here to make it very clear where I'm at, okay? I don't want anything past it. So if you haven't already done it, please mute. I am at the point where I have just slain Tiaman, the consort of Nidhogg in Heavensward, and I am slowly gaining my reconnection to the Blessings of Light. I just got the Earth Crystal. I believe I already had the Ice Crystal. So that's basically where I'm at. I've been going around with Astinian and Alphino and Ysael, and that's basically where I'm at in the story. So still in 3.0. Yeah.
Okay. So that gives us a good place to just say, hey, let's not talk anywhere past that. We're going to mostly focus on A Realm Reborn, but if there's references that go into that, maybe some things we can tie in a little bit safer, and not hold our tongue on it.
We can't talk about the origin of dragons. Let's not get into that.
That's good. That's a very big topic that we will get into one day, but not today. Not today. So let's talk about this. First things first. We talked about it a little bit before stream, but I want everybody to know watching. How's your notepad doing?
So when I play this game, I do voiceovers just like Frosty said. And I also take notes. So in this notebook here, I have probably close to 40 pages of notes now on stuff all through Realm Reborn, Crystal Tower, Coils, all the Ascian stuff, anything the Ascians have ever said, basically I've written down. The Ice Heart stuff, I mean, it's pretty much... I'm going to have to get a new one soon, but I figure since I have this, I may as well finish using it. So.
I was saying a bit about this before the stream, but when you first started and were on last time, you're like, yeah, I just started. I've got 4 pages just full of lore.
4 whole pages.
I got all these messages he can't seriously intend to keep writing stuff down. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen, he's done it. He's doing it.
I got
40
lots of pages and lots of paper. We'll be fine.
You know what I should
But
do?
it does hurt my hands sometimes. It does.
God, you know what I want? Never mind. I was thinking. I have like some cool like notebook stuff that I will never use, and cool pen stuff that I would never use. It's okay. But like with Square Enix pens and like Final Fantasy 14 pens and like Shadowbringer's notebook that has like bound leather on it and everything else
That's
that they
sick.
just gave to us on a media tour. I'm like, I'm never really going to use it for anything. I was like, man, you know, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I'll think about it, Pyro. I might send that
That would be
over your way.
insane, but yeah, no pressure. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for even considering doing that. That's awesome. That's how I got these Encyclopedia Eorzea books. But
Yeah. No, I messaged you as soon as I saw it come up. I was like, you gotta take advantage of
thanks for that.
it.
Yeah.
Which
I'm very thankful.
you're going to get into those, I think, after Heaven's Ward, right?
I think I can read the first one after like 3.3 or 3.5 or something. I think it's like 3.3, but I can't
I'm trying to
confirm
remember
that.
exactly where it was at. I think it might be 3-4.
Right in the middle there.
Because I remember
Right in that ballpark.
The trailer dropped right around that time, I think. I don't know. I'm spacing out a little bit on it.
No worries.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
Did they?
I think that. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I remember that. I was trying to remember when they advertised that they were selling it. Was it at a fan fest that they did it, or was it?
Yeah, they
think so,
both
originally.
came out. They both came out at a fan fest.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, what were you saying, Pyro?
Oh, I was going to say. I think I'm probably going to end up finishing Heaven's Ward before I crack the first one anyway, because I think I'd like to see the climax of that story and how it's going to lead me into Stormblood before I take a step back and read a fucking book like this, and devote that kind of time and energy into doing that. I will probably stream some of that as well, so that'll be fun. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably end up finishing Heaven's Ward first anyway. So what patch ever it is, I'm not too worried about.
Okay. Well, I kind of want to get into it now that we can safely talk about A Realm Reborn. What
Sure.
are your thoughts in general about the main story for A Realm Reborn?
I think that the story is pretty compelling, especially for a new player. It kind of hooks you in pretty quick. It does make you feel important, but you still understand that there are steps and things that you need to do to make yourself more powerful before you can just go kick Primal's asses and do crazy stuff like that. So I really enjoy that aspect of the story. I love how you're kind of like injected into the world, like getting to choose your home city. I think is really, really cool. And I'm very glad that I went through Limzilla Minsa as my first one. I had a great time there, saw some crazy stuff. So in general, the story, to just like kind of summarize better, I think that it's pretty well put together. It's not very well paced how it plays in the game. I think that there were definitely a couple parts like right before Titan was one of like the worst MMO experiences I've had in a long time, and that's with it shaved down, which is kind of insane to me. It was just kind of a slog and just kind of boring. But I think everybody knows that. And it's now that I've gotten into Heaven's Ward, I think that my opinion of A Realm Reborn, I get why it is diminished for people, but I still think that if you consider how and why and like the circumstances in which it was made, I think that it's pretty damn good, all things considered.
Yeah.
The
Go ahead.
The Titan one, I think, is one that's kind of, there's one in Heavensward too with another subset of characters, but I think the Titan one is famous for being kind of like what feels like the emotional midpoint because it takes so damn long. And I think they did it on purpose in a way too, because they're really trying to make it feel like the Company of Heroes is trying to keep you from going to Titan, that they're trying to make you change your mind, that they're trying to weed you out. And they do succeed in making it just feel like a slog. Yeah.
I understand the structure of it, and I definitely appreciate that. I think generally it was really good. I think honestly, especially once you get into like CT and coils, that's where it gets like, okay, this is pretty sweet. And then right towards the end of ARR, like patch content stuff, which I know is a different topic we'll probably get into, but that stuff is really good. I love the political story in this game, because in WoW it sucks. It's so fucking bad. WoW's political story, it's always been pretty bad. But anyway,
I'm trying to think of the best way to approach the different storylines and
Yeah, there's a
topics
lot
here.
going on. Yeah, yeah.
So I think at the last thing that was released was the end of the main story that was leading into Heaven's Ward. And so if we go back
Right.
and we start talking about things like I think Coils was the first one to finish up before Crystal Tower finished up. Isn't that right, Moose? Yeah. So
yeah, it's even patches are Coil, odd patches are Crystal Tower.
right. So if we start talking about Coil, which actually it's such a weird thing for Final Fantasy XIV, and you'll notice this later on maybe as well, is that they put a lot of story into the raid content.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was difficult
I dug that.
content.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. We couldn't kill Bahamut on min-eye level no echo. We tried, or no, we didn't do min-eye level no echo. We were just trying to kill it synced,
Okay.
and it was rough. That's a fucking tough piece of content right there. Min-eye level no echo would be fucking sick, but we weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
The pattern that we usually did was 3 hours a day, 2 days a week. We weren't hardcore by any means, but even with that, it took like 3-4 weeks to get some of those fights down, especially when it came to Bahamut.
Yeah, the last few get tough. Like T9
Nine
was
was bad.
rough. That was a rough one on stream. I didn't understand one of the mechanics, and it really set me back. I was a pretty big hindrance to my team. But I also felt like, to be honest, the indicators were not as obvious as I was hoping for, not as intuitive. But then again, I died to standing in a puddle on the ground. So like, what the fuck am I talking about? I stood in fire, so you know.
It's difficult.
It is what it is.
I think with a lot of the fights, and we could talk about this a little bit from a rating standpoint too, because you're a raider. You do like raiding.
Formerly, yeah.
Yeah.
Formerly.
It's in your blood. It doesn't leave you.
That's why I started WoW. I mean,
Yeah.
I started to play Warlock and do big fucking damage, and big damage I did for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with this game, this was its first attempt at doing hardcore difficulty for the player base, and it was the only difficulty. There was no easy mode. You had to do it the hard way.
Right.
And I loved it. I ran it with a casual group that we met 3 times a week, which I guess is a little bit more hardcore than Moose's group, for 3 hours at a time.
9 hours, yeah.
And the only one we cleared, I guess we started like right when the second set of coils came out. And we didn't clear that before the patch came out for the next set, but then we cleared that one before the expansion came out, and we felt pretty good about it.
Nice.
But it was definitely very difficult, unless if you have a group of people who really know what they're doing with you and can kind of lead and guide you.
Right.
Learning those mechanics and figuring that stuff out takes time between a lot of
It
different
does.
people.
It definitely doesn't. That's what I'm kind of excited about for like trying some of the harder content later on in the game, like maybe ultimate content eventually, because I think that I really appreciate the fact that with 8 people you can put together a really solid set of people. I understand it's a lot of personal responsibility, but there's also a lot of personal responsibility in 20 people in World of Warcraft. But 20 people can just become shambles so quickly. And rezzing in that game in combat works a little differently than this one. So I'm excited to try the difficulty of that content, but considering that it was their first go at it, like, I'm pretty impressed, dude. And the way that the raid looked, I mean, for how old that content is, amazing, dude. Square Enix is just, yeah, they're insane.
I always like to say one of the difficulties in the fights is being able to not pay attention to all the things that are pretty around you and all the visuals and everything else, and actually focus on what's going on the fight.
Dude, it's so hard for me because I'm prone to look around in fights. You know, I want to see the environment. I want to know the story of where we are, but it also detracts from the story of the fight. So, but I'm looking around all the time, so I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get clipped by stuff sometimes, you know?
I did. You know what? I did see the video recently where you were in, was it? No, you were in Bahamut, and then they looked at the floor and you realized they were explaining that it's the life tree.
Yeah,
that's on the
that was
floor.
pretty cool.
And that's something that they don't even say or mention anywhere. It's just they wait for people to pick it up and make it public and stuff. And that's subtle. It was real subtle.
You just have to be able to recognize it. When they pointed it out, I was like, holy shit. And it's got me thinking. I was like, what's the implication of that? Like, what are they suggesting something with that? Or is it just thematic? Or does it just look cool? And those are things I like to consider. So when it got pointed out to me, excuse me, I was very excited. That was very cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see you keep exploring those little bits and looking around, seeing all the little things and the Easter eggs that they throw in there. It's, again, I'm going on this. awesome right now to see new players going through the content and seeing all this stuff, and it all adds up in the end in its own way, right? It pieces things together because they make the great stories. So
It's called story cohesion, and some companies know how to do it.
yeah,
Some do.
absolutely. And so let's talk about that raid story a little bit and get into that. What were your thoughts on how they kind of went into the big finale all the way up to Bahamut? Because that was what you see in the trailer. That's obviously like the big bad guy, and you finally get to it. How did you enjoy going through that storyline?
Dude, I loved it because I was very intimidated by the scale of Bahamut, the visage of him there floating and all that stuff happening to him, and all the exposure happening was very, very cool. The crystal, and I really loved the whole idea that it's all in this fucking mega starship from the Alligans. I was like, holy shit, dude. That like set off a light in my brain of like, they had starships. Like, did they even come from here, or did they come from another place? Like, are the Alligans, are they aliens? But anyway, basically, yeah, I loved it. I love the whole thing with Louis Soir, like seeing. It's full spoiler, right? Like we disclosed, that's what we're talking about.
No,
so I'm
everyone. By the way, and you were being nice earlier. If anyone's watching this and they're not to where you are, they're going to get spoiled. I mean, that's just what it is. You're at the bar and the limit for the show and the people watching. Sure. So.
Okay, so that should be expected. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
When I saw Louis Soir become the Phoenix, I was like, oh my god. Like, I wonder, like, at this point, almost anything can become like whatever a primal is. Like, that really got the wheels turning there, and getting to face Bahamut, that as the finale was so sick, dude. Like, because I'm familiar with Bahamut from 10, and obviously I've seen all the ARR cinematics, so it was very intimidating, and the story leading up to it, I think, was very satisfying. I was like, damn, that's a good. I mean, I didn't see it coming. I didn't think that we were gonna get like a Louis Soir like finale. I assume, as from what I'm seeing right now, anyway, from that. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
It's interesting to hear about like the perspective of it from a non 1.0 player too. Because for us, that was like, there was like a story in 1.0 that went from 1.18 to 1.23, and Coil is like the back nine of that story. So like us, that was like the closure of everything we'd been through since we like the Garlians showed up and we fought our way through Mordona and killed Darnus and all that kind of stuff. Like the fight where T9 takes place is a 1.0 battlefield. It's where we had our last 1.0 fight.
That was mentioned to me. Yeah.
So to see that again was wild, and to see Louiswa like not just dead was wild.
Yeah.
And like I think I was so in awe of it when I was trying to put it together. We had actually completed the entire first coil before I really understood that we had gone down the outside of the spaceship and then through the Aethero jet engine of the spaceship. And then like the dragons flew out of the broken hull of the spaceship. And I don't even think I put that together until after we were done.
That's so cool that you got to piece it together like that and really like figure out the scale of the whole thing as you were going.
I have an ancient chart somewhere in a PowerPoint that's like all the like depths they tell you that you're at compared in all three coils to figure out like a general schematic of the spaceship. Like, damn, I got way too into it at the time.
You got into the geometry. That's sick. I mean, why not? If you've got time to do that and you're invested in that, that's a cool thing to do, to try to figure that out. People did that with the giant sword in World of Warcraft that Sargeras shoves in the planet. People did math to figure out like what would actually happen. Yeah, they're like, how big is this thing? And what would happen to this planet if it was actually struck by an object like this? I think Game Theory did a video on it. And it was incredible, like the way that they put it together. So I really love the idea of you trying to figure out like generally what's the scale we're looking at.
You know, I didn't even, I'm going to be honest. So I'm not from 1.0. I'm from 2.0. That's when I started. Oh, well, I started really 2.2. But when I saw, because what Moose is talking about is it says yalms when you go into the fight, right? It tells you how many yalms. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Why do I care about yalms? It was like,
that's yards, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's just yards.
I think I only learned that like yesterday, so I'm like, yeah, that's yards, right? I, like just figured that out.
Ilms, fulms, yalms, malms. It's just
Yeah.
Crazy exotic American measurements.
The best.
Yeah.
Because using multiples of 10 isn't a good idea.
But yeah, no, when I was seeing that, like, I didn't think about that at all. And again, I guess this is just something Moose would, like, catch when he's playing through it, and he'll see all these little different bits. And that's why all these crazy theories and all this stuff is made outside of it, because they give you so many little things to work with. Like, holy shit. It bypasses me because I'm like, oh, look, pretty colors and fights and explosions. And
I was just trained by 1.0, where they didn't tell you anything because even the writers didn't know what was going on sometimes.
Yeah, I think that when the writers are still trying to figure things out, and you're kind of required to, in some aspects, piece it together yourself, that kind of pushes you in that analytical direction.
It's in a certain mindset for the rest of your experience.
Yeah. I did notice you also watched some information about 1.0. How far did you dig into 1.0? Is it the one video, or have you done a lot more?
So I've done that one. I have that one highlight that's on YouTube where I learn a lot about, Nail Van Darnus before Nail Deus Darnus, which that was awesome. That was a crazy little escapade there. And I watched stuff about the battle at Silver Tier Falls, I believe it is, with Midgardsormr. So I've got through. That's pretty much what I think that's what I've gotten so far. I don't think I've gotten to much else in one.
I mean, the nutshell video I think does pretty well.
Yeah, it sums it up pretty well, I felt like.
Yeah. But I think one of the interesting parts to me was Nail, T9, and all the story and lore that went in with Nail. What were your thoughts on that?
I was kind of, first off, for me, it was very confusing because I didn't really understand the plot of, like, it went from it was a guy, but now it's a chick. I didn't really understand how that what was going on there until my chat elaborated on that and helped me. Okay. So I think I remember it's some kind of, anyway, there's some kind of adjustment that they made, I think.
There's a whole tale behind that.
Yeah.
It was actually like a as far as I understand what happened, there was some poor communication behind the scenes, and some people always thought it was one way, some people always thought it was another way. So when they developed the character, like, they chose the male skeleton and the male emote pack and the male voice pack, and then there was a couple people who were like, well, actually, I always envisioned them as a woman, and then, like, they kind of went back and forth on it. So, like, I'm actually going to address this thing in chat real quick. This is a translation error.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was.
This is a rumor started by Tumblr. That's not true. Internally. Wait
a second, real quick.
Know.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Anonymous, are you correcting a hearsay rumor in the lore community right now? Is
there still a hearsay rumor? Because, like,
that's what people told me on my stream. They kept saying they kept saying.
If you Google a Gamer Escape post from a few years ago, it's called "Nail in the Coffin," Nael in the coffin. Square Enix actually allowed Koji and Oda to issue a statement saying it wasn't a freaking translation error. Like,
damn,
they had to issue a statement to stop this. And yeah, like, it was a couple people on Twitter who were like, sorry, Tumblr. It was a couple people on Tumblr who were just adamant, like, Nihongo master script, Koji Fox ruins everything. And, like, it was just never true. Like, the people on the team didn't know, like, there wasn't great communication internally. You can go to the Japanese version of the Lodestone on the Wayback Machine, and it's male pronouns for Nail. Like, so it was just, there wasn't great communication on the team about what was going on, and the mask was never coming off, so it didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And then, so they make T9, and they're like, how about we do this cool reference to that, and we have, like, the female Von Darnus? Wouldn't that be so cool? So they go through and they do that, but then every language of the game actually explains it differently. So in English, you have Urianger, and he's like, oh, well, I guess Bahamut just made a mistake. And then you have French, where Nail's like, I was once a weak little girl. And you're like, wait, what? So we were so incensed about this. One of my friends actually used his VIP pass at FanFest to ask Yoshida about it. And Koji's like laughing at him, like, yeah, what's up, Yoshi? And Yoshi's like, man, he was always man. So we're like, okay, well, then we've got it figured out, don't we?
Solved.
No, we didn't.
No.
So the lore
even
book
from the
comes
man
out.
himself couldn't do it.
The lore
well,
book
the lore
finally
book.
comes out.
Do we want to go into the lore book, or do we want to hold off on that?
Well, I won't be specific about it yet, but like the lore book comes out and they finally put the Iron Fist down and they say we're coming up with one final explanation for Nail von Darnus, and they put it in the lore book, and that's now the lore. But like that lore was born over a year of just clusterfuck trying to correct everything they had done. It's a dramatic story, and we ended up getting a really cool character out of it. But that was drama for years. So when you say it was a little confusing, don't worry, it was to Square Enix too.
Nail van Darnus, super awesome character. Immediately found them intimidating. I really liked how they presented the character to me as someone that didn't interact with them in a 1.0. So I thought it was pretty good. And it was immensely confusing. I probably spent like 15 minutes sitting there kind of like trying to understand what the fuck just happened in front of me. Yeah. Not to mention the transformation into like a dragonkin thing right there in front of me, or like the fucking the avatar of Bahamut. Like I wasn't ready for that. So that all stacked on there, but it was cool. Yeah.
To be fair, like I had no clue who Nail was when I beat him. I was just like, hey, boss, called Nail. That's the name of the boss.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's go.
Cool jargon.
Yeah. But when you go back, I went back a little bit and I got into a little bit more of the lore and the information, the story and everything. And every time I do that, I'm like, how? This fucking shit's so cool. Why did I not pay attention to it? Right? This would have made the fights better. This would have made everything about the game that much better for me.
Literally every game is like that. That's not just an FF thing. Like if people paid attention in WoW, it'd be the same thing. They'd enjoy the game more if they knew what the fuck was happening in the raids, truthfully. I mean, it's true. Like if you understand why you're there, why you're doing something, and there's some kind of like emotional capacity behind it, you have some kind of like main character tie-in that makes you invested in any capacity. I think that raiding is a really, really great way to get people invested in. But anyway.
So the other part about, I guess, the whole raid story is that the twins and their grandfather were a huge part of it. Did you think their characters did really well helping guide you through that story, or? Yeah.
I honestly kind of enjoyed 2.0 Alphano. Honestly, I know a lot of people didn't, but he was pretty much present the entire time. Alice, she's there, and that's all good. And her like, I don't know, her like denial and everything. There's like a nice overcoming of those internal emotions that I can appreciate there. And the Louis Swat thing, like that was I thought it was gonna, honestly, like the first time when I saw him, I was like, oh, it's an Asian. Just pretending to be Louis Swat. every time that there's someone that I don't think should be there, and it's like, oh, that person seems sketchy. I'm like, it's a fucking Asian. But not literally, but But yeah, it was pleasant to actually see, like, no, that actually is Louis Swat. I figured that what I really liked is how they kind of lead you down different paths of thought, and it's not just like the answer's just the first fucking thing that you do. Like you kind of go through it and you're like, oh, it's like the dark visage. It's like a manifestation that Bahamut is doing to fuck with you, basically. Like it's not like the real thing. And then it's like, oh shit, that actually is like Louis Swat. He's corrupted by Bahamut or whatever. And then the whole Phoenix thing, I thought that was a really cool way to like progress the line of thinking and not just go in with like a one-dimensional thought and have the characters feel fake because they just always figure things out the first time. I like that in this game that there's like a realistic trial and error even for the hero characters that exist alongside you. And a lot of times that trial and error leads to like very important and strong and interesting character development for those characters. So I really think that the Louis Swat thing brought Alphino and Alice's relationship, especially with one another, and to their grandfather together in a more meaningful way for me, and definitely got me more engaged. And because of that, going into Heavensward, I like Alphino even more as a character. I think that they've done very well. So yeah, I liked it.
I wasn't actually expecting that. Most people hate Alphino, to be honest with you.
I didn't mind. You get used to it. You voiced the fucking guy. Like 30% of the dialogue, I feel like, was from Alphino. So
think they're intended to be polarizing. Like, I know people always tend to like one way more than the other, and I think it's because there's such like a potent example of the Japanese like red oni, blue oni trope, where one is more logical and cold and calculating, and one's more like fiery and passionate and impulsive. So I think it just speaks to different people in different ways.
Yeah. I do kind of like that. I've seen in some ways, if I may say, that in Heaven's Ward, it kind of seems like towards the end of ARR and going into Heaven's Ward, Alphino has kind of started to realize some of his own recklessness. That kind of shows that maybe he adopted from his sister, and some of that, you know, passionate, just kind of aggro that he can have, and kind of how he, you know, I can appreciate. I just went through a scene recently where Alphino kind of was just like, yeah, the Warrior of Light will be fine. They'll do it, and you know, it's like he didn't have any regard for like our own safety or our consideration of the situation, and I really love that they addressed that. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
No,
been
that's good.
It's been sick. It's been sick, dude. I just love. I could just talk about it forever.
No, yeah, and I guess like the other big part of all this too is a big moment. Literally everyone in the community when they got into that final tier, and then they beat T12, and then they fucking show that cutscene. It like became such a huge. It was T12, and it was such a huge deal. Like everyone had this hush mentality. Like raiders were also, hey, you can't say anything. Just beat it. Let me know when you beat it. I want to talk to you about it. And it was just like that for everywhere. And I didn't expect it. I thought people would spoil that shit everywhere. But it was this perfect secret that everybody wanted to be exposed by only doing the content, experiencing, and going through it. And I don't know. What were your thoughts when you saw that? Were you expecting like a CGI, fully fucking funded cutscene?
No. I was not expecting that. And I was not expecting what happened. No, that was fucking sick.
Yeah.
That really kind of showed me, like, and it's funny because compared to some of the other calamities, it's a rather light one, which is kind of fucked up to hear. But, you know, it kind of explained, you know, showed me the gravity of like the forces that we were fucking with here. Like, Louis Swa literally rocketing through. I can't even describe what I witnessed, dude. It was awesome, but I did not expect that quality. I did not expect that type of thing.
Yeah. It definitely took my breath away when it happened. Like it was, because it pieces everything. It pieces so much together. There's this little gap right there, and then they just throw it in there. Maybe they.
Yeah.
I don't know if they made the whole thing, and they're like, hey, what if we just like cut this part out, and just like throw it in.
They're like, let's just put that at the end.
For me, that's what it was as a 1.0 player. Is when we fought on the last day, we didn't know what to expect when the servers went off, really. And the servers went down, and this video came up called The End of an Era, where you see the first half of that cutscene. And it's actually kind of in the beginning of A Realm Reborn now. But that was our ending. The server went off, and we got the end of an era. And then, like you said, everybody kept that secret. So when you got to turn 12 and you finally beat it, it was like, holy shit, there's a second half of the end of an era.
Yeah.
Like,
that was exciting, and how it kind of just like linked right to it. I think was awesome as well. I think that as far as like people keeping it a secret, I think that's amazing that people are able to do that. Because I'm going to be honest, in like World of Warcraft, for example, as soon as like 5 guilds kill it, someone puts out a video or it gets data mined or something. The cinematic gets data mined on the first day and it gets spoiled on a fucking website, and that was always just like so disappointing. So especially for someone like you, Anonymous, who's invested in the story a little bit more than your average person, I would say.
Probably a little.
That I think I could only imagine that payoff when like that second cutscene went off, and you're just like, oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
What is this gonna be?
They try so hard to isolate it. Like there's a section of each community that is very into data mining, that is very into spoilers, but like
Sure.
It's one small part of Reddit that's quarantined. It's one small part of the Gamer Escape Discord that's quarantined. So like they've done so good about not spoiling people who don't want to be spoiled, and I'm always proud to see that.
Yeah, and I think that reflects in like the community, even on Twitch. Like, it's insane. I would think that with now that the amount of people that watch, like that there would be a lot more people trying to do that. And the mods are really good, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people are strong advocates of defending against that type of behavior as well. So it's very evident when you interact with players and people that watch the game. And I'm super happy about that, because I've had just a couple minor spoilers thrown my way, and that I've actually seen rather. But so yeah, I'm very happy about that. That's really cool.
And I'm glad the community is still treating you really well with all that too, because I mean it's a huge
Yeah.
deal for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no,
My streams now are crazy. It's insane. It's yeah.
So you know what? It's so strange. You weren't even expecting this to be like the next turn in your life, like a couple of months ago.
No, not really. I mean, I thought, you know what, maybe we'll give it a chance. We'll see what happens with it. And then, you know, we kind of went for it a little bit. Tried here or there to pump in a few extra videos, a few extra streams, and people wanted to see more. So here we are.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
All right. Well, let's talk about the raid a good bit. Let's also hit a bit on maybe Crystal Tower.
Yeah.
Because this is a very interesting one. Because there's a lot of story, and it doesn't seem to add up. If I remember right, going through A Realm Reborn, it doesn't really seem to add up and be as much part of. Well, I guess it is. Like everything kind of connects in some way, but it does branch off a little bit, right?
Yeah, it definitely has its own isolated storyline that is the Crystal Tower, but I would also say that it meshes back pretty well as long as you do it at the right time. And I think that I can't remember what patch I did it after. If I try to guess, I'll probably get it wrong, but I did it in the recommended order so that it made as much sense as it could, but I understood that I was going to have to go there eventually anyway, so I figured I would just do it. And Crystal Tower was a joy. I really liked CT.
Tell me, so I'm curious, because I'd like to hear your thoughts. What did you learn from doing CT? What are things that you at least believe you learned from doing CT?
Yeah, so from CT, I learned that the Alligans made a mistake and caused basically earth-shattering earthquakes, and led to some pretty terrible stuff because of their activities in the CT. I learned that Dalamud was an Allagan structure that was put up into orbit by the Alligans. I learned that they used it as a conduit in order to siphon etheric energy from the sun and channel it into the Crystal Tower to enhance their energy reserves. For what exactly, I don't know that I necessarily understand for what purpose they were doing it. But that's, you know, I learned about what was it? Was it Zanzi or Zandy? What's his name?
Zonde.
Zonde, thank you. You know, getting to see an Allagan like that in person, as well as the other things within the raid, was exciting because I really like the Allagan stuff. I think that. Oh, sorry.
No, finish up.
I was just gonna say, I think my one thing is that it's just like the timeline is kind of hazy, but I think that will clear up later as we progress, because like trying to place, all of when Crystal Tower's origination happened among other events is tough.
For the sake of your notes, I'm not going to say anything that isn't in the Crystal Tower story, because actually the Crystal Tower story and the Allagan timeline is actually going to connect to two big parts. One is the Trial series that's in Heavensward. And
can I ask you a favor?
Main scenario, yeah.
Okay,
Don't say that much either. Don't say that much either.
That's fine.
Okay.
No, I made the mistake of one day accidentally going to. It's probably not that big of a deal, but I made the mistake of going to the store, and I saw that character that we interact with in CT ends up getting a different title later on. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're good. We're good.
No, I'm gonna say like
no,
I'm not gonna say anything that's not involved in kind of like those things.
In the CT main story. Yeah.
Right, but I can explain the question that you had in terms of what the energy was doing.
Yeah, sure. I don't recall.
Pretty much everything big that we learn about Alog is tied into the late part of the era.
Okay.
So they had like 1,000 years of empire, and then almost all the cool shit we know about like spaceships and technology and like wars that are beyond that are all like the last couple hundred years. And Dalamud's energy was required after Zonde was reborn. It has, like you see in the Crystal Tower storyline, that it was required to open the void, the gate to the void that Zonde was using for his act. The tower was enough to power the Empire, but it wasn't enough to do what he was doing with the void, and he needed the void for the war in Marasidia. So like when you see him on the throne, kind of stroking his chin, like, you know, so Marasidia is now brought into the fold, but I feel so empty. Like,
Right.
that's what he was using the energy of Dalamud for, to get the energy of the void. Like, using the void requires an extraordinary amount of energy, more than the tower could have ever had on its own.
Okay.
And the story will return to that in other ways. It's not like a direct continuation, but it will return to it in other ways. So I don't want to say more than that. But you will be taught kind of what that energy was used for.
I like how he's taking the notes.
Like, I'm having flashbacks as he's writing this, because I didn't know this until I read a Dengeki article in the Heavensward era that it came out around that time, and they actually explained the same thing, that like, here are 9 big timeline events in the Alagon Empire. Only the first 2 happen in the first 1,000 years of the Empire. And I was like,
Yeah, that's insane. Can you elaborate on something again for me? You said something about Mercadia. Can you explain that?
The southern continent. Marasidia
like-
is the way we pronounce
Or
it.
Marasidia, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Marasidia is the southern continent. Alog tried very hard to conquer them for a long time, and it did not go well. So when you get to the stagnation of the empire, and this guy's like, well, I know how we can resurrect our society. We'll bring Zonde back, the first emperor, and with him back, we'll be great again. And so when they come up with that plan, Zonde's idea is, well, we'll finally take Marasidia. That's going to be the big thing that's going to show that everything's back on track, that we're where we should be, that our society is making progress again. We'll just take Marasidia. The one dream that got away, you know?
Yeah.
So he dedicates everything to overthrowing Marasidia.
Is this all like in the A Realm Reborn storyline?
This is all in Crystal Tower and the Coil of Bahamut, because that's where Bahamut was captured.
I missed all. You know what? No, I know some of this. Like, I'm piecing it together, but I can't remember when I get this information, and so it's difficult for me. So I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I hope Moose is only sticking to the world of A Realm Reborn.
I hope I'm sticking to only the
I'm
world.
not worried about it. I want to know this anyway. That like this gives so much context to what was happening. Like, I didn't.
That's the big thing, is like you learn the main point in the stories of Crystal Tower and Coil, but you like, there's so much context later that eliminates some of the misinterpretations that you could have made of the first one, I think.
Yeah, very possible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. I just got a half a page of notes. There you go.
You know what you should do? No, maybe I shouldn't recommend this. No, that's fine.
I'm thinking of. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if you wanted to, you could make like a ridiculous sub goal, and if you hit that, you give away your notebook at the end of the. End of.
So I was actually, I think when I finish it, or them, because there's going to be more than one, that I will probably digitalize them in some fashion, or pay someone to digitalize them for me, because I can't be asked. And then maybe sell the original, or do like a charity thing with it. I think would be really cool. Like do some kind of charity auction where whatever the winning bid is, we can do like a charity or something. But yeah,
thing now.
Frosty's got me all paranoid now. Did I say anything I'm not supposed to? But I'm not worried about it. Going back and I'm like looking at the cutscenes in my head, like, no, he said that right there. Like,
okay,
you went into the void.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about it. And shit, honestly, I took so many notes. It might even be in there. I just can't remember because it's fucking a month and a half of streaming ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess from a gameplay standpoint, did you at least enjoy going through the Crystal Tower series?
Yeah. I thought it was even on mid-eye level, no echo. I thought that it was a nice casual difficulty. I thought that having 24 people was awesome. You know, being able to bring that many people with me for an experience, I think, is a really special thing. I always try to mix it up and bring people in. You know, I have a couple different friends that I'll bring to like my EX trials and stuff, like a small static for something like that.
Yeah.
But look at me, I know like some terms now, like
that's great.
But like it's cool to like be able to interact with people in that way. So having a large alliance raid like that was a lot of fun, and then it was beautiful in the scale. Excuse me, the scale of it was pretty marvelous for when it was made. And I was pretty impressed with what they did. Yeah, I threw my G shade over it, put a little more color into it, and it looked insane. So
Of course. Yeah,
I was pretty happy with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
When that came to a conclusion, what do you think about like how that ended? Are there any thoughts that I'm trying to phrase this in a way? I don't want you to ask questions that will get answered later in the story.
I mean, I do that all the time.
Yeah, but I mean,
You just got to know which ones to not answer.
Yeah. Exactly, and Moose knows all of them exactly right. I'm trusting him 100% on that. But yeah, no. When you were going through that, was there anything that was standing out that you're like, I'm curious about this? Did I miss something? Is something just seemed off or weird?
Not anything like off or weird, but I thought that the like Allagan blood was an interesting thing with those two, whatever that they technically were that came with us.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. It's just a little fuzzy. I remember the male Mikote character that we played with, and his kind of direct involvement in it, and his kind of him being a descendant of a lag essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it ended was rather alarming. You know, him kind of kicking everybody out of the tower and sealing it and trying to go that route was a little bit alarming, which I'm excited to see what that unfolds into later, given that I know what his title later is, because of an unfortunate spoiler, but you know, it is what it is.
He's stuck in a tower, man. That's all.
Yeah, he's just in a tower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the way that it ended was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it flowed decently well with the story. It didn't fit in as nicely as Coils, obviously. But it was good.
Yeah, Coils is one of the best raid stories, I think, like in any game played, because it
was
fit
really good,
so well, and it did so much for you that you were expecting, especially the 1.0 players like Moose. Like it was very meaningful. So going through that as well, I guess we can get to the main story quests a little bit, and the whole idea about, you obviously know primals are a pretty big deal. In the game right now.
Right.
Kind of what are your thoughts?
I've been introduced
about
to some new ones lately.
Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts about how they use primals throughout the story? Do you feel like it's a good plot point, or is it a little bit tacky or weird?
I think that some of the primals are kind of like, really, dude? Like King Moggle is like, I don't know about that. You know, and the fact that if you do that they refer to it in the story as like a primal, is just kind of like slightly annoying, I guess. But it is, I guess. You know, anything with like reverence and crystal offering is like, you know, what is an icon to the Garleans and what is a primal to us? Like, what does that really amount to? What makes one? You know, it sounds like fervent worship, followers, sometimes like sacrificial tools and sacrifice and crystals and things like that. Like, it's pretty standard. Like, I just fought Ravana, and that was fucking sick, dude. By the way, that is a
good fight.
That is a cool character, in a very, very cool fight. And the music, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the use of primals, and I think in Heavensward they seem to have like kind of found their pacing on like how to introduce them in like a meaningful way. Like I saw the crazy sky whale thing, and that scared the shit out of me. So I'm excited to like maybe confront that eventually. The way that they set it up and use it to pace the story is good. There have been a couple times where it's like I said, an ARR where like some of the primal excursions are a little bit tedious, but it is what it is, and I definitely think playing through that part of the game is worth it to get to all the good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Ravana, you start getting that. I think that was the deep throatal kind of music that they had for that. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like all the music that they put in any part of the story or fights or anything else, it just adds so much to the feeling and the experience. Mm-hmm. And Soken is just a god. I mean, you'll hear that all the time. Soken is a god.
I do hear that. I hear it in the music in the game, and I hear people say it.
Yeah. And, you know, I've seen that guy backstage, and he's just like crazy, like jumping on people's shoulders and like everything. And he's such a fun guy.
He's a wild child. Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's when you really think about that, the story does really add to. I'm sorry, the music does add to the story. Have you listened to like some of the lyrics and some of the songs? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Answers, and I just listened to the one from Ravana. I've or not listened, but like I read all the lyrics, and not all of them, but I try to read most of them. Titan and Shiva I read. So for me, like musical analysis, or even just like putting thought into the structure of music is honestly not something that I've done that much of in the past. Like World of Warcraft, frankly, doesn't have a lot of that. So it's new for me. It's honestly a challenge. You know, people are talking about like motifs and stuff like that, and I'm like, I think that I'm recognizing them. I think I understand what people are saying, but I do really like the music, and I think that if you just pay attention to the words and kind of think about the situations, you can kind of piece together what it's kind of supposed to mean or what it's supposed to represent. Like with Ravana, you know, his whole driving conquest and war, and just like kind of almost like that Sword Logic-esque, like we live to fight, and to fight is to live, and to live is to fight. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And I like how it adds that character in a very meaningful way. So yeah, it's really good. But getting into like delving into understanding it all, I know that takes time too, because there's some like reveals later on regarding that. But it's been very fun but challenging.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, Koji and like Soken are like best friends, so it kind of explains a lot.
Oh yeah.
About
yeah.
how that works out too.
The music is all
some great
beautiful though.
stories about
I'll say that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I bet, dude. I bet the music is all insane. It's all. I've always loved Final Fantasy music. It's one of my favorite things, even back in Final Fantasy X. And sometimes I'll play 10 music on the stream. So I'm not surprised that it's also fucking fantastic in this game. And I'm super excited to hear what is out in things like Shadowbringers. So
You won't be disappointed. I mean, that's all
I'm
got
sure I want
you.
to. I've yet to be disappointed, so I'm not really expecting it.
Yeah. Okay, so
Since
I mean,
we're-
go ahead.
Since we're going kind of topic by topic, do we have like another moment for a historical context digression on primals?
Yeah, you know what? I completely trust
Sure.
your ability to stay within the realm of the knowledge of.
No, this is like going back to kind of 1.0 and 2.5-ish, I guess.
Okay. Get the notepad out.
Mog is a bit like Von Darnus in that the history behind Mog is a bit organic. In 1.0, there was only Ifrit, and there was like
Only
Titan was-
Ifrit?
only Ifrit at first, and
Oh, no.
they had a commercial that Titan was in, but that quest was level 52, but you could only go up to level 50. And they only really had content for like 36 to 42, just about when everything fell apart. So we never, in the Tanaka main scenario, we never saw anything beyond Ifrit. And then Yoshida comes in and it's like, all right, well, we got to do like Titan and Garuda. And then 2011, right after he does Ifrit, and they're ready for Titan and Garuda, what happens is there's a huge earthquake in Japan. And they're thinking, maybe it's not the right time for Titan.
Yeah. Maybe a little
it's like-
insensitive.
and they're like, all right, what other resources do we have? And then someone goes, we got Leviathan, and everyone's like, oh. So
Maybe
they
not.
just had a big earthquake and tsunami, and they were like, maybe that's not the best. So Yoshida was like, let's, everything's kind of miserable right now. Let's do something to cheer people up. So they do this ridiculous Mog fight with weapons that Kupo when you pull them out. And, it was just like
that's so cute.
a way to cheer everybody up. So when they came
Good
into
to
A Realm
know.
Reborn, they were still going to use that fight, but it's like, great, now we have to make Moggle make sense as a primal. And they were just doing their best to make it try to work. So Moggle
it is a
little
primal?
weird. Without spoiling anything that's going to come later, I would say that on a technicality, you can classify Mog as a primal. The one thing I'll say that I hope it's not too big of a hint, but because it's not even part of the game,
Careful now.
is the word
Store is
the
not part of
word-
game, yeah.
the word primal means an elemental god of the beast tribes that symbolizes the founders of the planet. Ifrit is the beginning of all fire. He's one of the founders of the planet, the primordial beginning of the element. That's what he is to the beast
That's
tribe,
the
right?
vibe that I got when they were first introduced.
That's what they were supposed to be. So really the word primal shouldn't apply to anything but the big six. And that started going a little sideways when they had the idea to do Shiva, because Shiva was a very different way of summoning.
Yeah.
And from, I want to say, the introduction of Shiva into the middle, late Heavensward, you can tell they're experimenting hard and fast with new ways to summon primals. They're trying to make it unexpected and cool and better. And what was going on there was the writers were coming to the lore team like, hey, I'm going to summon a primal this way, make it work. So they'd come up with the lore for it, and they'd make it work. And then they'd come back in and they'd be like, hey, we're going to summon a primal this way, make it work. And they'd be like, that doesn't jive with what we just said.
Yeah.
So for,
You can't switch
for
it
a
every
while,
time.
there's like this like war going on between like building the world setting lore and building the scenario war for primals. So if you think about it, like technically the word primal shouldn't apply to anything but those elemental primordial forces, but that's not true. The word primal applies to a lot more in this game, and it gets tied up with the word icon. And what does the word icon mean? So does the word icon mean the same thing to Garlemald that it did to the people they got it from? Like, that's
From the
a question.
Elegans, right? I'm pretty sure that's who they got that from anyway.
Like, it is indeed. I'm being more vague than I need to be. Like, so like, does it mean the same thing to both of them? Who used that word? Why? That word, that's going to be explored a lot as they kind of go deeper into what a primal is, but you're not far away from in the main scenario, really digging into that idea, what makes a primal.
I'm excited for that.
So we'll be able to talk about this soon enough. But yeah, they were coming up with new ideas. Mog was a trip. Like your fingers
They're
on the
just trying to
pulse
make
of
people
kind of what's
happy.
odd about it.
Yeah.
Your finger is very, very close to the pulse of just like, if something feels weird and there's a reason why it feels weird, that's the thing you've noticed feels weird. So I just want to like throw in the context.
Okay. Yeah. No, thanks for elaborating. I appreciate that. That does kind of clear that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I hate to do this, but is it possible if I step away for just a minute?
Go ahead. Me and Moose will hang out. You do what you got to do. We come back.
Sorry about that. I'll be right back.
It's fine. So Moose, let's talk about everything about Shadowbringers right now. You probably saw that off.
Don't even mess with me.
No, but yeah, Moose. Yeah, I'm trying, Moose. I think I'm doing a good job, and you're doing a good job. I'm just like so sensitive to spoilers, just like everyone else is. But I know there's so much that we're excited to talk about, right?
I'm trying to, and like I'm having a really hard time finding my perfect balance right now, because not only do I have to avoid spoiling anything that's coming up, but I'm trying to only provide context to the stuff he's talking about. Like, as far as I'm concerned, he's the guest. This is his show.
Absolutely.
Like, so when he's got something that's on his mind and I can provide context to it, I want to do that, but I don't want to like suck up all the oxygen either.
I don't know.
But I am an airhead. I will talk for an hour if you let me.
Yeah. And it's awesome to hear all that context, right? And all the development, like, understanding of why they made it this way and how it all kind of worked together and everything. And it's just information you have because you've looked into it and you care about it, right?
Context is king in lore, because there's like, even today, when we're trying to understand the lore of today, and I will not give any examples, but like when we're trying to understand the lore of today, if you understand the lore of yesterday, you can see that some of the stuff they're doing now is a bit of a retcon. It doesn't, like, I try to highlight, there's a difference between an addition retcon and a subtraction retcon. Like, an addition retcon is they give you lots more addition retcons, or they give you lots more framing, right? They give you lots more information, and what you know becomes what we thought we knew. Whereas a subtraction retcon is, oh, ignore that. That never happened. We took that out of the game. Everyone hates the second one. The first one is used brilliantly in this game, over and over and over. But like, context is king. So if you know what those, like, what used to be true, you have so much more power to predict how the correct interpretation goes in the later stuff. So like, I love context.
I fucking love Pyro so much.
Can we just get married, Moose?
I just fucking hear him yelling over there. Oh my god. But yeah, no. Moose is like a god, and I can't wait. I'm like genuinely like super excited for you to finish. Take all the time you need, Pyro. You know, to go through all the
Don't
story.
worry, I was going to.
Yeah, I know. But once you're done, once you're done, that conversation is going to be like a 10-hour show. I'm just letting you know.
Oh God. Hey, I hate to disappoint you, but I only have 12 hours. I'm sorry.
Okay, 12 hours. I'll make do.
But I think I'm counting away.
Yeah, no, like I love having Pyro on here, just getting that like perspective and everything else too, because dude is like, there's people who come in and play the game and they're excited for the story, they get into it, they see the front-facing story and everything else, and then there's people like Pyro who's like, I'm gonna fucking figure out every little bit and detail that's happening around me.
I love that he gives me kind of the excuse to be the place that I think I'm best in the community. Is just like this dude who hangs out in the basement and reads the books all day. And then like you bring him out for like an hour, like, yeah, just talk about this and then go back to the basement. Like he's the counterpart that is in public all the time, making the cool content, engaging with the people. And then every now and then you just go get the weird troll in the basement and get him to like, explain a chapter of a book he read a year ago.
Yeah. By the way, the reason why we're doing this show, and Pook mentioned this, is like I was streaming just the other day, and I was like hanging out, and Pook's like, hey, Pyro said that he'd be on to do a show about this. I was like, fuck yeah! And then as soon as he said that, I like sent Pyro a message. Then I sent you a message, and I'm like, all right, let's just do it. Let's just get it together.
I'm gonna like arrogantly plant the seed now. Stormblood was such a divisive expansion. You have to have him on again after he, like, right when he finishes Stormblood, like at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never hear
it was a
anyone say
polarizing
that Stormblood
expansion.
What were you saying, Pyro? Yell it a little bit louder.
Sorry, I said I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that was their favorite, but I might just be misremembering.
Well, I mean,
like,
go ahead, Moose.
Heavensward versus Stormblood was a war. Like there were people who just loved one and hated the other, and then all of a sudden Shadowbringers came out and everyone was like, what are we fighting about? Shadowbringers wins.
This isn't even a contest. What are we doing?
Yeah. It's so it's interesting to also see, and I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this too, Pyro, as you go through like expansion after expansion. You see what's happening with the writing team and how they're developing like their style and evolving and kind of changing what they want to do going throughout it.
I really want to talk about that. I'm almost done. Give me just 1 second. I would love to talk about it.
Sure, that's fine. So, Moose. I don't know what else.
I'm so sorry. If you want to know what I'm doing, I promise.
I promised my brother that I'd give him this screw that he needs to install a new little M.2 hard drive in his computer. No, I know this sounds crazy. But my parents are in town and they're gonna stop by and grab it for him. But they're gonna be by soon, so I needed to uninstall it from my old motherboard so that I could give it to him. And I'm so sorry that I did that in the middle of your show. But it's really important that I give him this screw. Otherwise, he can't put in his hard drive.
It's okay. Everyone in chat was saying it was your puppy. And I was okay?
No, but thanks, chat. It probably would be next time. I'll be right back.
Go. I just wasn't expecting that as the reason. I don't know. It seems so random. Oh, it's a good one though. But yeah, no, Moose. The only sad part about all this is like again, not at this kind of going off and doing his own thing, because our talks have been like between me, you at this, and we brought on why am I missing the name? We brought on the Nier Autonoma. Oh, God damn it.
Clemps?
Yeah. We brought him on, Clemps, and we were having those conversations when he was going through some of the story because he loved Nier. So it was...
He made that series make a lot more sense to me than it did before I watched his video, and I thought I had a grasp on it, but I mean, his videos really helped me.
Hey, but why are we talking about that? That's fine. Anyways, Pyro.
Thanks for filling the void there. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
You're talking about the progression of the story team, I think.
The storytelling, like, have you noticed like styles of writing or anything kind of advancing a little bit? Okay, go ahead and talk
we
about
got
that.
away from a little bit of the old English. You know, we're still in because god damn, dude, that gets intense sometimes. But you know, they're still using honestly some words where I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I have to look it up, and I'm like, great, my lexicon is expanding here. Like, you know, and I don't know, it feels good to like be able to follow the dialogue a little bit more easily. It's just more easily read now, I feel like, but still intricate, still beautifully written. I think that they've really found their pacing a little bit better in Heavensward now from what I've experienced, and you could even start to see it more in some of the patch content for A Realm Reborn, where they started to figure out like, yeah, maybe this character shouldn't have like 8 pages of dialogue to go through. Like, maybe we should find a way to split this up, or like condense this, or like maybe take out some of the redundant shit that sometimes the characters will say. So it is a noticeable improvement, and I'll say from A Realm Reborn to Heavensward, literally everything across the board is a noticeable improvement. Like, it's definitely a giant step up, and I have to remind myself often that I'm playing content that was developed in 2015 because it's very impressive. It's very impressive what I'm experiencing that is 6 years old.
So that's one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy XIV so far, at least in my opinion, is that, like, you know, it's good. It works out. They make an MMO a lot of people like. It was a popular, even when WoW was like way bigger and huge and crazy, and there wasn't like all the crazy stuff going on right now. It was still a big MMO, but they don't give up and say, all right, we're going to stay static and just kind of keep going with what we have. I mean, there's some things, you know, they'll keep, they're like, hey, people love this. We're not going to just throw that away. But at the same time, they improve.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's make it better.
Crazy.
It's
crazy
a
philosophy.
company would
It's
do
insane
that.
how you'd want to improve your product to sell more of it. It's crazy.
And I think, like, even now, the pressure is always going to be on the development team, like just learning about the development team and everything else to do good. They're at a high standard, and they don't want to ever be not at a high standard. And I don't think they're going to get lazy. I don't think there's any way this company's going to... Maybe in 20 years.
It can happen to anybody. I mean, people said that about Blizzard at once upon a time, you know? So, but I don't foresee it, especially with the type of developers that I've had presented to me, like the way that they interact. Like, I just did the Rising event, and getting to hear, you know, what I got to see in there was really, really cool. That felt really special to get that, like, kind of direct addressing to you as an individual. That something like that would absolutely never exist in WoW ever.
Yeah.
So that was a cool thing. So even though it could happen to any company, I would not ever foresee it with this company.
That does bring up a good point that I didn't think about. Do any of these seasonal events spoil anything in the story, or are they all like little segmented, separate things?
Nothing I've done yet has spoiled anything.
Now
Done like 2 events.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good on their own. I don't think anything's really that messes with the story. Moose would have to know better than I would on that.
Yeah, I'm like running through it myself. I feel like there were 1 or 2 things that reflected on the story in a way, but I don't know if they were like big spoilers or anything like that. I forget. The holidays all kind of blur together for me because I see the holiday events as in-character greeting cards from the dev team, like they're role playing with you through their new quest. Like, so they all kind of blur together.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool.
And each year the Rising has its own little different thing where they say thank you, you know, and they go through, and I think it's just their little way of like, hey, let's make a little thing and give that to the players and feel connected in some way or another.
A little effort can go a long way.
Yeah, and I feel bad a little bit for you because as you're going through the story and you're trying to not be spoiled and everything, I don't think you're watching the live letters, right? You're not watching, you know, the updates that they're doing. Like, they have a live letter coming out next week. Do you know?
No, I'm not watching any of that. No, absolutely not.
So you're missing out with that communication as well as they're going through it, and they're pretty good about it. There's so much to talk about with those communication pieces. Which, again, once you're all done, we're gonna go ham with a lot of it.
Sure.
But getting back into all this, the writing overall and how they developed and how they kind of advanced as a company and how we see them doing it, it'll keep happening. And you know, I just want you to know you're. Everyone's told you this. It's nothing you don't fucking know. It's just going to be good, and it's going to keep getting better.
Yeah, that's all. That's what I've experienced, is just kind of like a pretty steady progression of improvement.
So, other things about the main story quest. What's your general thoughts on the Garlian Empire so far?
I mean, obviously the Garlian Empire is a little bit reflective of like the Romans, you could say. So their kind of advancement out into the world, like their belief system is elaborated on a little bit, obviously, as you're going through like Castrum Century and stuff like that. But the Garlians are like, I would say like they're kind of like moderately interesting to me. Like the way that they are kind of like in some ways like Allagan mimic in some capacity is interesting to me, but more so because I like the Allagans rather than I like the Garleans necessarily. Some of the Garlean characters have been really cool. You know, I did like the Neil Van Darnus stuff. I thought that was good. Mm-hmm. And obviously I like the Gaia stuff. So it's been pretty good so far. I'd like to see more of them. I think so far from what I've seen, they've in a lot of cases been like kind of your very standard faction villain kind of thing. Yeah. So
I mean, and I think especially going through A Realm Reborn, I mean, they're and getting into Heaven's Ward, they're just there as the bad guy, the bad evil nation that you have to battle off, right?
Yeah, the Fire Nation.
Yeah, the Fire Nation. You know, every once in a while I watch Avatar for like, I go through the whole season again.
We're the Fire Nation right here, dude.
Oh yeah, it's true. How do you like the Black Mage story, by the way?
Oh, dude, the Black Mage story is cool.
Yeah.
I think I like Black Mage itself more than the Black Mage story, though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Really?
Black Mage is fucking sick, dude. This class is so fucking sick. Like, I just got ley lines and sharp cast and all this shit, and it is sick. I can't wait to get to 60 and 70 and get like full real Black Mage, because the foundation that it's built upon right now, I love, dude. It's so much fun to play. Like, I love the thought process of like pre-planning where you're gonna stand and how hectic it can be if you don't. It's such a fucking sick class. I'll probably try some other ones. Just while I'm talking about it, I'll address this. I'll probably try some other ones. Like, I want to try Red Mage. I'm told it's really good, or that it's really fun, rather. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's good. I have no idea. Probably Dark Knight. You know, get some of the lore of those. I'll eventually do them all. I mean,
okay. Yeah,
it's inevitable. I want the story for it. But as far as the story goes, it was pretty good. Like the Nalthal stuff, the books are pretty cool. I just learned my last spell from the first book of, I think it's the Book of Nald that I have. But anyway.
Yeah. Moose,
yeah,
you were saying something?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm a scholar, so like Black Mage is in a similar vein of like you have to think kind of ahead of where the fight's going and learn the fight in a different way than most people with Black Mage. I refer to it as hippocampal. You get like this unconscious feeling for the flow of time when you're in battle. I love that about Black Mage. I just love that like you're either really good at it or you really suck at it. Like, so like I have an appreciation as a scholar for kind of like that hippocampal mindset of it. And the lore for Black Mage is up and down just because like when 1.0 dropped, there were no jobs. Anything Tanaka could reinvent the wheel on, he tried. And they ran into this really, I don't envy the position they were in. Conjurer was master of the elements.
Oh boy.
And Thaumaturge was life and death. So you had like two choices.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Do you put like because the alternative to this was you keep Conjurer to Black Mage as the master of the elements. And then you have your gothy people in the forest town. And then you do the life and death into White Mage, but then White Mage like works at a funeral home.
You're like, how does this all actually?
So like they were like, what do we do? So they split the elemental wheel between them and are like, these are nurturing elements and these are destructive elements. So the lore behind it's kind of weird no matter what you do.
Yeah, no matter how you slice it. Yeah, that's yeah.
And you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like I'd love to get into like White Mage and all sorts of that stuff as well. Like there's so much lore packed into like the story, and with Black Mage, you know, I've learned a fair bit about like Void Scent, and I've learned, you know, how other people view the use of black magic. You know, I've learned a little bit more about the Mage War, whatever they call it. I have the name in here somewhere.
The War of the Magi.
War of the Magi. Thank you. I think it's
There's
called
some
the
quest
fucking
lines that
same thing in World of
explore
Warcraft.
that a bit.
Yeah, and kind of learning like those civilizations that kind of built themselves upon the use of certain types of magics, like the black magic and the white magic, and what happened for like those who use summoning and how that led to that calamity. So yeah, it's been cool. I really like that it's individualized, and I like that they really make use of the characters that they introduce you to throughout the first few like steps of that class questing process, because I think it really pays off later on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to, I was thinking about that, and I wasn't going to ask you, but I was like, since you're playing Black Mage. Yeah, because there's a lot of story you can grab from doing the other jobs and everything else and other classes and going through all that stuff, which you'll get to at some point.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of black mages are Lalafell, and
yeah.
About that. So
yeah, go.
I set a sub goal on my stream, and it was to become a Lalafell for all of Stormblood, and I didn't think that we would hit it, let alone in like 5 days. And then they did. So for all of Stormblood, I'm gonna play a fucking Lalafell. But I'll be a black mage Lalafell, so it'll at least be like it'll work thematically, which is exciting. And then there's a new sub goal that if we hit that one, then I'll just turn into Lalafell right now, and I'll play it all through Stormblood. But after that, I might change it. We'll see.
Yeah. Never doubt what people will pay for you to do something you don't want to do.
I am very quickly realizing that. I'm very quickly realizing that. It's a great thing for me, don't get me wrong, you know, in the way that it manifests, but yeah, it's people are fucking crazy. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, on that note too, during the world race that we did once, we're raising money. I was like, you know what? Hey, let me just say, how about this? I'll put on makeup and get into a cat girl outfit if you guys, donate and hit this mark. And we had like an hour left. I was like, it's not gonna get it. And then like within 1 minute, thousands of dollars were donated. And I had to I did a show dressed up with makeup and in a cat girl outfit on Glamour for Final Fantasy 14.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I don't know if you want to look it up. It's all right.
I don't even want to look it up.
It's okay. But going back to the story and the lore and everything here. The Empire, you had your thoughts, are kind of your classical Fire Nation. When the other thing that you're seeing a lot of is the Ascians.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, what's your take on the Ascians so far?
The Ascians are fucking sick, dude, and they're so okay. I gotta slow down.
Go. Yeah.
So, I just learned of the first female Ascian. I don't know if there's more, but I literally just got the first cutscene where we learn about her. I can't remember her name currently, but regardless. Mm-hmm. I really like the Ascian stuff, dude. Like I have a soundboard where I'll play like Ascian music if I think like the Ascians are gonna pop up on the fucking screen at some point. Or I'm like, oh, this is sus Ascian music, you know? So it's a fun time with that. Like my sub badges on my Twitch are Ascian masks, which I love the Ascians, dude. Like they look, I don't know, something about them to me just looks really cool. And the fact that they kind of follow this Zodiark, you know, dark one true god, and Zodiark seems to be this like potential kind of like opposite to Hydaelyn in some sense. Like they're big players obviously, and they're immortals and they're immensely old, and you know, I don't know what they know, and I don't, you know, I'm going through Heavensward right now, and the Archbishop thinks that he's outplaying the Ascians, and I'm sitting here shaking my head like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck. Does he really know what he's getting himself into? Like, because it sounds like you just met them and you're talking deals with them, and you think you're gonna double cross them, but double crossing an Ascian sounds like a bad fucking idea to me. So anyway, like I really like the Ascians, and they feel menacing, and they feel like they're impactful on the story. So I'm excited to learn more about them and what they truly are, and like and what Zodiark is and what they're going for. And I write down, like I said, when I say that I write down everything they say, I write down every fucking word. Like, really? Just because, sometimes they speak cryptically, and you know, you really need to go back and revisit what they're saying. Otherwise, it'll you'll gloss over it. And that's part of what I love about them is that Square like puts a good amount of effort into like sorry, I'm getting fucking barraged with text right now. Sorry.
It's okay. Is there more screws you got there?
No. It's my mom. She's coming to pick it up. Anyway.
Okay.
They really do inject some of that. Like, hey, there's some room for you to try to figure out what they mean by this, and like, based on the context that we've given you so far, you might be kind of misled in your thinking, and that's part of what the Ascians are about. Is that kind of manipulation to get you to do the destructive things, the chaotic things that they want you to do. And I think that's very frightening and that's very dangerous. I have to say I'm a little disappointed that we killed one already. But I am glad with the one that we killed because he had the most annoying VA in the fucking game. So I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, no disrespect to the VA, but I couldn't stand his voice. So
I mean, it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
Yeah. The Ascians are cool.
Yeah, I think that
everyone's cool.
I'm trying to remember my experience in A Realm Reborn and thinking of them. I don't know. I don't know if I liked them or I just didn't really care for them. Back in the day, though, I wasn't as detailed and deep into the story, so I let a lot of things pass by me, and so it was really confusing. I think for a lot of players who aren't like really paying attention, it could be kind of confusing what's going on with the Ascians. So it is refreshing to hear you say, "Oh, I love them. They're the best."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like. I don't know if I'm still also super interested in the Allagans, and I think that is probably one of my peak interests, as well as like the 12 is really interesting to me, and trying to really understand like this thing going on between Zodiark and Hydaelyn is obviously insanely important. But I think that in A Realm Reborn, the way that they present the Ascians makes them like I kind of feel like they're the guys kind of work in the background the whole time, and so that's what kind of got me interested in them initially.
Just, I guess, an interesting point to let you know is during FanFest in 2014, when A Realm Reborn was over and they were announcing Heavensward and everything else. Actually, A Realm Reborn is still going on, I think, during that period. The Soken came on, and his entire band that they have for Final Fantasy XIV in Ascian robes, and like came on and was like rocking out in the robes and everything on stage. You would have fucking loved it.
That's so sick. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's so awesome.
And the band's called the Primals, by the way, if you're curious.
The band is
nice.
so good.
They are really good.
The Ascians never do anything with the Primals. I don't know why they would.
Yeah, it don't make any sense at all.
That's great.
But yeah, no, I think there's so many, I think in A Realm Reborn at least, it feels like there's a lot of little bad guys in the background to pay attention to. Because, I mean, you're paying attention to the Garlians, you're paying attention to the Ascians.
Fucking Lolorito, or not Lolorito, but Teleggi, that motherfucker.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, so getting back to like the other part of the main story, which is like a huge thing, by the way, is how did you react to that whole scene, the bloodbath?
I mean, it's gonna end up going on YouTube. You can find it on my Twitch, but it is like it was a little shocking. Like I wasn't expecting that, but I was like, fuck yeah, like let's go, Raban, like. Let's see you kind of get a little gritty like you used to be. Like I'm sitting there like listening to the way that Teleggi is like accusing me of assassinating the Sultana. Is it the Sultana? Is that the right word? Yeah. Thank you. And I'm like, dude, I fucking hate this guy. Like there's one thing that this game's really, there's a lot of things this game's really good at, but one thing that this game is good at for me in particular is getting me to fucking hate characters that are nasty little evil little shits like Teleggi. And so like I was like, God, I hope someone kills this guy. Like I can't fucking stand this guy. That's not really always the answer, but that's what Raban decided to do, and I was pleased with that. And then I was very sad though when Nanamo died. I was like, shit, that's disappointing. Come to find out, obviously, she's allegedly not dead and was just poisoned. So that's kind of where I'm at in that story. So but the it was long though, dude. The cinematics were so long that kind of caught me off guard. People were like, yeah, they're long. I wasn't expecting like an hour of cinematics. I was expecting like 15 minutes, maybe 10. Maybe it actually was that. Maybe just me writing shit made it 2 hours.
The pop-up tried to tell you.
It did. I
Be
mean,
sure you have sufficient time.
what is sufficient time? Like, maybe an estimated time would be good. But yeah, they were great cinematics. I certainly appreciate the amount of time and work that must have went into them. I think that for me is exciting and involved political storytelling, where like you kind of get to see Raban kind of let loose and kind of get vengeance on Teleji, but at the same time, it's also like a big development for him as a person, and seeing what happens with Ilbert and all of that, and how that ties back to him with the Crystal Braves was really interesting, and I think it was well executed, and it's one of the only times I've ever actually been interested in like political drama in a game.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So it was that was like I think it was 45 minutes. If I remember right, it was like 45 minutes.
It's pretty long.
But the credits, that was extremely long because they put all the player names from 1.0 I think in there.
Yeah. In the 2.0 credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a shitload.
Oh yeah. It was the 2.0, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was like it's like the world record, or yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's awesome. And you, I didn't actually read all the names, but I wonder if there's any like really just memey names in there that you kind of read, like Fart Knocker or something. Goes
I'm
by.
sure. Oh, I'm sure. If it's there's got to be at least a couple where it's like, I see what you did there.
Yeah. But no, I guess ending A Realm Reborn, they did leave it like really impactful. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, and it makes you want to go in. It's like definitely making you want to just dive right into.
I wanted to see the next episode immediately.
Yeah. It was a huge cliffhanger, and I think seeing the I think I'm trying to remember what we saw. We saw the trailer at FanFest, but they weren't at that point in the story yet, so they cut like half the trailer. And then once it finished up, they did the rest of it. Like at the JP FanFest, they actually showed the rest of the trailer. Which you saw the trailer. I saw the video of you watching the trailer. And
the trailer for what? Sorry, Heavensward.
Heavensward, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your thoughts on that? You want to share it with everyone?
Yeah, I mean the trailer was pretty sick. Like I'll say this: Square Enix has always made wonderful cinematics. Like even as far back for me as like Final Fantasy X, but that was a while ago. That's even back then they had just insane cinematics. So I was not surprised by the quality at all. It was pretty hype. I think for me, I have to be honest. Sure. World of Warcraft has some really fucking sick cinematics as well, and that's some stiff competition. I would say that there are definitely a couple World of Warcraft ones that I think were like better, but I also know way more about that story, right? So like my inherent excitement, might be a little bit skewed in that regard. But I think that I'm going to be more hyped about other ones. I'll put it that way. It was really good, but yeah, I think I'm really excited for like the Shadowbringers one. I want to see that so bad.
That was really good. That one is really good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was good.
My wife, when the new trailer came out for a WoW expansion, she'd always watching. It's like, why couldn't the game be as good as this?
Ooh, I say a nice thing about him in your next sentence is you got to take shots, bro. I'm trying to like give him the benefit of the doubt here. You're like, nah, why is the game shit though? You're like, and I'm like, fuck, dude, he's right. What the fuck am I supposed to say to that? Yeah. No, I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. Like when the Shadowlands cinematic made me fucking cry. I literally had a panic attack because I was so fucking excited when I saw Sylvanas Windrunner shatter the fucking sky to the realm of death. I was like, dude, this is, Right. But yeah, the game obviously didn't turn out that way. So yeah, that's pretty true.
That's what my wife said. All right, I didn't say it. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Till just now, but I'm just kidding.
It's true. You're true.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I think I'm trying to think of the other things with A Realm Reborn. Because I don't want to like go too deep into conversations in Heavensward for sure. Because going into Heavensward, you start to get into like where's that right bit of information coming in at that I can't tell you because you haven't gone to it yet. So it does get a little dicey.
A little tricky.
But I mean, you do get in that first experience where you're going into Heavensward and it feels like this cold, faraway place. Did you like that experience of going in there and that initiation into Heavensward at least?
Yeah, I think the way that you're led into it from Kurthus is, and obviously first entering Ishgard, yeah, it was like it felt very desolate, and it felt like something really bad's going on here. And then I got into the city and started reading the dialogue from NPCs, and I was like, there's some really bad shit going on here. So I thought that like setting wise, it was a nice step aside from what a lot of the game leading up to it is.
Right.
But yeah, I'm now going into Dravania, and that experience has been, there's a lot to say about that. So yeah, my initial experience coming into Ishgard, I had a surprise waiting for me, and there was like fucking 300 people in like a line on, like, it was insane, dude. I put that on my my YouTube, 160 hours of Final Fantasy 14 later. And that's actually my reaction to the Heavensward cinematic and me going up to the gate of Ishgard. And that was insane, dude. Like that experience was one of the most special things I've ever experienced, especially in gaming. Like, for people that had no idea who I was, people were just asking about it in like shout chat and stuff like that to come and participate in it and just be like welcoming to a new player. Was insane, right? And obviously that's not going to be your standard experience, but the fact that that's even a community-driven thing that they just volunteer to do, I would never have expected something like that to happen. That was insanely special, and that was kind of when I knew, like, dude, this is a really special thing, and this is a really special community, and like this is something I think I might want to take a little bit more seriously, because this is making me a lot happier than my fucking job, and like that was really like really solidified it as like, these are the kind of people I'm gonna interact with, and this is the type of community that's here. This is where I want to be. Yeah. So
I don't know the like technically accurate confluence of factors that makes this game one of those games, but I think kind of there's a special kind of interaction that only happens in MMOs, where people can come together and create an experience together. And I think having someone like Yoshida at the helm, who is first and foremost a gamer, he's always been a hardcore gamer.
Yeah. He's a fucking gamer.
he respects that and tries to create opportunities for that. And you can see in the fan base that there are all sorts of organic moments like that come together when everybody just decides, this guy's streaming right now and he's about to do something big. Let's all go like welcome him in. And I love moments like that, especially for people who are like streaming it and front facing as their job.
Yeah, it was fuck, dude. I still can't like, yeah. I don't know how to describe the feeling that it was of just like the amount of people that were there was mind-boggling, and yeah, it
feels like a community of people who like, just want a good experience, right?
Yeah, shout out Crystal DC. Shout out Crystal DC, by the way. What's up?
Sorry, yeah, that's fine. Aether here, but you know what? That's
best
cool.
DC on Crystal. That's where real players play. I'm just kidding.
Crystal actually houses most of the a lot of role playing.
I know.
Servers, so
it's one of my favorite things. People are like, "You're gonna go to a nightclub?" I'm like, "Maybe, dude. We'll see. I don't know. Can I do it on stream? Like, what the fuck am I gonna run into? What the shit? Everyone's wearing a tanga. Like, what the fuck is going on in here?"
As long as you don't have the mods that make it not,
not on stream, obviously. But
right.
I'm just kidding. No, I don't have it. No, I don't have anything like that. I use G-Shade, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. God, I'm gonna hit another tangent. I'm doing my best to avoid
It's okay. I do have if I can. I don't know how long you were planning to go today. We didn't necessarily discuss that, did we?
No,
I don't recall.
No, I don't. I usually 2 hours. Usually we hit 2 hours.
Okay, cool.
Where's
2
your
hours
limit
will
at?
be 2 hours, so I got 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. So we will go.
Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. 20 minutes would be that. So that hit right at the point.
Sweet. Okay, sorry to interrupt for that.
You're ruining everything, Pyro. Jeez.
Fuck me, right?
From the start of the show and everything for Green to come on, all this shit, dude.
Unbelievable, this guy.
But yeah, no. I do want to ask you a couple questions that I want to make sure I get in. One is, now you're doing Final Fantasy 14 as your main content. You're a streamer for Final Fantasy 14. You're doing YouTube videos. You're doing everything. Final Fantasy 14. Do you have like a... That's okay. You heard everything I said, I'm sure.
Yes, I did. Yes.
What's your plans?
Most of it.
What's your plans going forward, like content creation wise? What are your thoughts about what you're going to do as a content creator?
Yeah. I think. Sorry, I'm telling my mom that she can come in if she wants.
Okay.
Fuck. Yeah, I mean, I definitely continue. I'm planning to continue streaming, of course, Tuesdays and Fridays, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every time, unless there's a rescheduling, which can be a thing. I plan to do more with YouTube. I will eventually start doing like actually sit down recorded theorization videos and like maybe summary videos. Like there will definitely be a point where I sit down and I go through a summary of my notes from A Realm Reborn, right? Like that's something that is inevitably going to end up on my channel. You know, I hope to continue to do more things like this and other people with you guys and with other people in the community and that kind of thing. I do plan to do like more Patreon stuff, but that's an aside, and that's really not set up right now, so I won't say too much about that. So, I'd really like to. I'll probably end up having like a series where we delve into this, the encyclopedia books. I think that's inevitable. Shut up, Siri. And so yeah, I hope that gives like a good general idea of what I'm planning to do. You guys really should. I would ask if you've never come by the stream and if you've heard people saying like, oh yeah, he voice acts things and he writes things down, like come by the stream because it's true. I do it constantly, and a lot of people really love it. A lot of people that say when they come, it's the reason why they're there. So I'm going to continue that as well. I think that's should go without saying, but
yeah. And I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess another question is like, when you're at the end game, you're done with everything. And you're like the content creation, are you going to be saying, hey, I'm going to dive into this topic and start making like lore videos on that specific topic? Like,
oh, definitely. Yeah. I'll dive in and I'll probably do like a lore dissect on like a dungeon or like a fucking like, I don't know. I'll try to have stuff that's like original. You know what I mean? Like if someone did a deep dive of coils 5 years ago, why do I need to necessarily do one? Especially if it's like a huge video that's well done, right? But like, I try to keep it interesting, and I think that once you're at the cutting edge of content, that's where you're really allowed to do what I do best, and that's where we haven't even been able to get yet, because I can't really like theorize on what's really coming at the end game. Like once I have a full understanding of what the fuck is actually going on so far around me, I think that's where we'll really see things explode and get into a really fun area, and that's what gets me the most excited about this is the fact that there's so much room to grow. There's so much more opportunity for content to do. Trust me. Like there is no running out when you look at it the way that I inevitably will or hopefully will once we get to that point. So yeah.
I just want to say when it comes to videos about things that people have done videos on before, fuck it, do it anyway. Like,
you're probably right. Like, why the fuck
there
not?
Are the people that are watching your streams right now, they know what the story is.
True,
They're
they did that shit
enjoying
5 years
this.
ago anyway.
And I can, and as
true.
as someone who writes down everything, as someone who like studies everything and has answered a million questions about everything, I can guarantee you there is not one video yet that hits every single note. You are going to hit a new note somewhere. You're going to have a new perspective somewhere. Fuck it, do it anyway. Someone's gonna watch it like a rerun of an episode they've seen 1,000 times. They don't care.
Thanks for the encouragement. I appreciate it.
If it is a valuable use of your time and you think that other people would like, do it anyway. You bring something new to it every time you do it.
I think it is.
And
Thank you.
A lot of people want to hear you talk about it, right?
They do, and I think that's why they're there, right? It's not that the fucking ARR primal story is so encapsulating that people want to fucking watch it again. Like it's the mystique of someone seeing it their first time and getting to vicariously experience that and see those reactions, and so that is a very special aspect. So I definitely don't want to forget that. I need to get the door. I'm so fucking sorry.
Go get the door. Go get the door.
I'm so sorry.
Go get the door. That's perfectly fine. I mean, we're getting to close to the end point here, but yeah. When I have one more question that I'm gonna ask him when he gets back, and then we'll wrap everything up. But yeah, I feel bad. I feel really bad. But it's still. Go ahead.
If it's the one is it the one I jokingly threw in earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind? Like, can I ask a different one?
Yes, you could ask a different one. I'm gonna let you ask a different one then. I trust.
I'll throw that one in there if I can think of an organic way to do it. But
yeah, I trust you to put something that's not to at least put something that's a little bit more entertaining or a little bit more interesting to listen to.
I'm thinking about where he is in the story and where I was in my head at this time, and I think that I know one topic that's just kind of fun to think about at this point in the story.
Okay, sounds good. So Moose, I'm going to ask you a question. How's your streaming setup going?
I mean, I've got everything set up, but I mean, I have been in limbo since that one thing I did for the virtual con. And
Yeah.
like I haven't done anything at all in my real life since I fell into that limbo. I just got out of it yesterday. They all the paperwork went through yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm hoping over the next week I'm gonna get back into my real life day job, and then once that's stable, I'm hoping to get back to kind of the hobby stuff.
Okay. Okay.
But
You still haven't tore it down, which is really surprising to me. I thought you were going to tear it down at some point.
tear what down?
The whole setup you have right there.
Oh, this like I just left this up. This is exactly the same it was the day we did Gillionaire. Like I think now that I've for anybody who doesn't know, what's been going on behind the scenes is for pretty much the whole Shadowbringers era. I've been in grad school, and I am just wrapping all of that up now. And I'm really hoping to reclaim some of my hobby time. This is why when like we were going into Gillionaire, I was like, just please don't ask me anything about the first. Like I don't know anything about Navrant. Like I sit around, like I still called the Ondo first Sahagan.
Careful about any like. You're good. I don't know. I don't know his headset.
I'm hoping he took his headset off to talk to his mom, but
I don't know. Maybe not. He could be just listening because I know he's probably just sitting there. It's like I'm gonna fucking like hear him if they say
you're
shit about
right.
me.
You're right. I feel
That wireless
bad
one.
now.
Well, you just said some random stuff. You can't make sense of it. It's all random stuff. Random names.
I'm gonna answer chat
Sure.
at great personal risk or whatever. I went to grad school to become a therapist, which is not what you expect to hear from a tech nerd who's really into fantasy stories. But that my day job and game life are just very, very separate, and so it's been a lot. This last 2 years have been a lot, especially with COVID. That sucked. Like, I'm looking forward to getting my hobbies back. But thank you for the congratulations in chat.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a huge thing to do, especially after all that time and actually getting to an end point with all that. But yeah, no, I think I get this is why I do this show. Like I work full time, like 60 hours a week at least, every week, but I have enough time to do this show and maybe one or two other things a week, hobby wise, and it keeps me sane. Right? If I didn't have these outlets to let me forget all these other things and go socially interact with other people, I tell this to everyone every single time we do the show. This is all greedy for me, dude. This entire show's for me. I want to talk to people. That's all I want to do. I just want to get on and talk to
self-care, man. Self-care.
Yeah. And so that's why we come up and we do these shows. But I don't know. I guess I think the show went pretty well overall, Moose. You think so?
I think so.
We did a pretty good job, like not, getting into like too spoily stuff, not getting into anything that's like too crazy.
Unless he's still got his headphones on over there.
You barely. I don't. Yeah, it was. It'll be forgotten about. I doubt he even remembers if he did have his headset on. But yeah. Since
we got a second, I'll throw out a quick, like very vague answer to kind of what Damp was asking here about, like kind of the increasing links between TTRPGs and therapeutic activities. I would say that there's a lot of untapped potential in the link between games and therapy. I think the emotional parts of your brain and the creative parts of your brain, they share a lot of real estate, and that when you're being creative, you're working through a lot of the stuff that's going on, and games give you an opportunity to kind of explore ideas and your values and different sides of your persona and bring out like Final Fantasy XIV alone has encouraged me to think about all sorts of things about my values and who I am and like how I relate to the world. Even just you can learn a lot about yourself and others by having like a really long debate about like Fordola versus Yotsuyu. Like there is a lot of untapped potential in games and especially in tabletop RPGs. So I think that like I want to see more of that tapped, especially because like in the therapy world right now, you try to be a therapist for someone under the age of 18 and not know anything about Fortnite or Apex Legends or anything like that. And you're going to be just like in a world you don't understand, pretty much. Like they're going to be talking about stuff that's important to them, and you're going to be like, what? Like,
Yeah.
so that's a very vague answer of the idea that I think that there's a lot of untapped potential in gaming as a therapeutic activity. But I mean, gaming is sometimes not great for your therapeutic point too. You get too invested in things. You take things too personally. You can interact with people in unhealthy ways. You know, moderation in all things, especially moderation.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you try to moderate, like you're saying, you can't over moderate because then it's just horrible. Oh God! All right, I'm pretty sure Pyro is coming back at some point here. I do believe it. And when he's back, we'll ask that last question. I don't know. Does chat? I don't know if chat has a question.
Yeah, chat has a better question. Throw some out.
If you have some questions, we're happy to try to answer them a little bit.
I like mine is like dramatically good.
We did have, by the way, one of our past MogTalks, we did have a mental health episode, and we brought on a mental health expert that specialized kind of like in the world of gaming as well. And there's just so much to talk about when it comes to mental health in gaming. It's a huge topic. It's one that people don't like to touch because it can kind of get a little bit tricky sometimes, but we're getting a little bit better in a society to do that. But you know,
I mean, I think everything about it is tricky, even just the ethics involved in a way. If you're involved in the mental health profession, you can't be careless about what you say about like opinions about what things mean or what you should or shouldn't do. Like, you know, like you have to be really, really hardcore on this is just my opinion. This is my perspective. And I think like following ethics and being knowledgeable about both the worlds kind of therapy and of gaming that's tough. It's a big ask.
Maybe, you know what, Moose? Maybe it would be a good idea to get you to come on a show about mental health and we bring on someone else and we just have that whole discussion. I think you'd have fun with that. I don't know.
As nervous as I am, I would think about it.
You think about it? Okay. Moose, you don't have a Discord, right?
It depends on what you mean have a Discord.
You're just in Discords, right?
I'll tell a weird story since we're waiting. Like,
Yeah.
there was a period, I think it was during the Stormblood era, where 4 or 5 times people came to me and they were like, hey, I really think what Discord needs is a single lore hub. Like every server's got a lore room, but no lore hub server exists. And I'd like to try to make one. And, you know, I think it would get a little more street cred, a little more traction if
I'm so sorry, you guys.
My parents came in. They came in. We got a new puppy, and so they came in to see the puppy. And
did you have your headphones off?
For the part where you were talking about, I hope he had his headphones off. They weren't off, and I only know that because the only thing I heard you say was, "I hope he had his headphones off."
Excellent.
I didn't hear a fucking word you said.
Great.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Fortunate.
Well, welcome.
I heard you say that. I hope he took his headphones off. Talked to his mom. Though I was like,
This said, I used a proper noun. I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, even if you did hear it, you'd probably forget about it. So it was a big deal. But that being said, we have a few minutes left. We want to ask you one more question, Pyro, before you leave.
Please,
okay?
please.
Moose, what do you got?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's not like a groundbreaking, great conclusionary question, but like, I'm curious, personally speaking, for the point you're at in the story, you're coming out of ARR, you're going into Heavensward, and Ysayle has just gone from being like your big end of ARR antagonist to now this person you've got in your party. And I want to know, what do you think of this character?
I really like Ysayle so far. Like, I really, because even when we first met her as Iceheart, and she was kind of like monologuing to me a little bit about her cause, even though she doesn't thoroughly elaborate on it, that kind of got the wheels turning of like, you know what, dude, is this right? Like, is what we're doing, are we on the right side of this battle right now? And it really made me start to question, like, what is so bad about the supposed union between man and dragon? Like, why is this considered heresy? Like, what is this? And that has yet to be elaborated on, I think. I've only just got the revelation from Ysayle about, like, what is the truth, basically, of like, what is the root cause of this war? And so I really love that I really love how they're doing it, that like through Estinian, And like through Alphino's presence as well, they're really allowing her character, and in some cases, Estinian's character, to develop amongst one another in a very real and organic way. And I think that's the right way to turn around a character, because you introduce them with the idea that like they have their own cause and everybody has their own cause. And to these Ishgardians, it's really fucking bad, but what do we really know about it? And then you start to learn more, and you see her kind of express some of her regrets about some of the things that she did. Like the attack on Ishgard led to the death of innocents, and that's not something Isael had planned for, that she wanted. You get to see that come out of her as a character. So the character development for me has been, in my opinion, pretty good as far as turning her around from that villain point to someone who I can appreciate, and in some aspects even kind of have sympathy for because of the things that she's had to do or that she's been through. So as a character, I love it. And right now, Alphino, Isael, and Estinian, is so far, and my one of my good friends told me that they felt this way as well. So I'm not surprised, but it is so far my favorite questing party in the game, hands down. Like, it is the best trio that I've seen. The way that the characters bounce off one another is really great, especially Isael and Estinian. So I love the character. I think that's actually a great question.
Thank you for the perspective, because like I was thinking about it, just kind of where you are in the story, and I think this is the first time we've seen someone kind of change their role in the story in that way.
Yeah.
And I think experience, like what happened was we went to FanFest, and there was the announcement that we're going to Ishgard, and they showed off this piece of art of the Warrior of Light, Estinian and Isael standing together, and I was like, I am not working with that bitch. Like, no way. She is so holier. She is so holier than thou. I think she's made a mistake. Like,
that was definitely the big initial impression.
I am not working with her until she has this big "what have I done" scene. Yeah. And then we get into the party, and she's like, look, I'm still not really like buying into your shit, but like on the other hand, what have I done? And I'm like, oh, now I like her. And
yeah. You're like,
so like that turn where we experience her in a new way is the first time I think Square Enix pulled something like this, and we have multiple times throughout the story that characters kind of shift their roles a little bit. Yeah. So I love hearing people's perspective on that. So thank you.
Of course, I love it, especially when it's done in a way that is believable and makes sense. You know, you can't have those Sylvanas moments where she burns down a fucking tree of innocent people and rips a hole in the sky to the realm of death, and at the end she's like, I don't want to serve you, jailer, ultimate mega god. It's like, come on, that's not fucking convincing. What is that shit? So I really like how they made it convincing. I think probably the only other example that I can even come up with, and it's not nearly as good of one, would probably be like Nero in his later appearances, where we see him kind of sacrifice himself to try to help other people, and what the repercussions of that were. So yeah, I really like that they've done that. I really love that in this game, and I think I talked about this the first time that we met, was that they continue to give me characters that give me a reason to forgive them. And like they give, you know, when a character makes a fucking mistake and they want to have an impactful like redemption for them, you get a really logical, heartfelt, you know, apology from that character in a lot of cases. And it just comes off as so much more genuine. So I think that those types of things definitely tie in with Isael, and why it's so convincing or acceptable rather for me is that they've done it in a way that's convincing.
I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion on that with a multitude of characters, because I think one of the biggest themes in this story is it challenges that idea of seeing villains on a continuum of pure evil to redeemable. It has a lot of villains that you can say, that's me on a different day. That's me with different resources. That's me with different experiences. That's me on my worst day. And I think the Warrior of Light is really good at kind of challenging that in a way that brings people together in a way that they wouldn't have come together before. And so I'm excited to hear your perspective about that and other characters as we go along.
Yeah, I like the way that you look at that. I'm excited because the characters I've seen so far, I've been very pleased with.
Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap up on that. That's a really good question to answer, or a good answer for that question. So Pyro, as we're leaving here, I do want you to if you have anything else you want to say, and shout outs or anything you want to do, and where people can find you.
Yeah, sure. So my main thing is twitch.tv/Pyromancer. It's pretty straightforward. You can also find me on youtube.com/Pyromancer. On Twitch, we're nearing like 5,000 or 50,000, sorry, followers there. So any love over there is much appreciated. I get people that come over to the stream all the time that are like, "Oh yeah, I first found you from MogTalk," which is really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that happens literally all the time. It happens all the time.
Wow. Alright.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. A lot of people that watch that interaction come to the stream. So, so yeah, Twitch is my main thing. I stream on Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. Pacific time. That's the West Coast of the United States. And right now, I'm going through, again, Heaven's Ward. So if you guys are interested, if you want to come and see someone voice act the characters when they're missing it and taking notes and talking lore and just having a good time, that's the place to find me. I would plug my Twitter, but I got rid of it, and I feel like I'm a much happier person since I got rid of it. So, yeah, I don't have a Twitter to plug.
That's fine. I mean, it is a blast to have you on the show, man. It really is.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming back and doing this. And anytime that you want to come on, I'm more than happy to have you on and talk to you about the story. So,
yeah, it's
Moose,
always really fun being on.
Yeah, Moose, do you want to do yours? I don't want to hold Pyro, so I'll just
Sure, no,
we're
we're good.
Sure,
I mean,
everyone
I
gets
think
the opportunity.
before I say anything about me, I just want to say, like, again, thank you. Like, when we talked that one time, I wasn't sure if we were going to do another one of these. If you'd go back to WoW, like, you know, you never know with these things. It could go anyway. You could go off and play, you know, New World, or, you know, like, who knows. So I'm glad we got to do this again. I hope you keep doing what you're doing. I get DMs about you all the time. Like, keep it up, keep being awesome. As far as promoting stuff about me goes, I mean, I live in the basement and read books. You just talk to me anywhere. Bother me at Anonymoose XIV on Twitter. I'm in the forums. I'm in the Gamer Escape Discord. I'm in Ethic's Discord. I'm in every Discord. But that's all I'm here for. I'm in the basement reading books. Come ask me questions. That's the end. Just be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other is a really good phrase to leave this off on. But yeah, everyone, thank you for watching this. It was a pleasure to come out and do this. And we did it kind of on short notice for just a few days heads up, and I really do appreciate that as well. We will be having another show next week discussing the live letter. We're going to bring Zeno and Arthas on, so it'll be a pretty noisy episode if you've ever watched either one of them stream before. But yeah, no, I do have to do my own thanks here. I got to thank both of you again. Moose, you thank fuck you're here every single time. Anytime. Because it would be such a worse conversation without you here. Pyro, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm so excited to see your development in the Final Fantasy XIV community and where that kind of leads to. And it's Endwalker's looking real good, man. It really is. both like story-wise and community-wise. Our community's looking like it's getting into really good shape, and I think you're going to make a great addition to that. So,
thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I do want to say thank you very much to my pregnant wife who is putting up with me doing this every week. So,
real round of applause there. Real round of applause. Let's go.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, and she's dealing with me kind of going out and spending a few hours just dicking around and talking about Final Fantasy XIV, and it means a lot she puts up with that. And then also thank you, Andre Kane, for the music and the intro and the closing, of course, all the mods, and of course, everyone else that's here in the chat watching the show. And until next time, remember, be good, keep cool. I'm not going to say, I don't like saying the stay
frosty.
Stay frosty. Bye, guys.
Hey y'all, Bubbles the Patreon, Bunny here again, just coming in to do my job. You know, last week I was in a dark hallway and I wasn't really very safe, and you know, that turned out to be very true. And so now, you know, now I'm here. I guess that's just how the carrot crumbles, you know? Well, let me go ahead and do my job, because that's not going to stop me from thanking the people who support MogTalk. So, first off, let me thank Morning, which is a great rating resource for anyone who actually wants to get into rating. And then there is Teamcraft, a great crafting resource that you can go check out if you want to get together with other crafters or just do some stuff on your own. And then we have Phase Temperance, which is a great organization that does PvE events for the community. Then we have some really just cool people who help out with the show. Dude is Antonio, D Fury, who's also known as the Qued Guy. Then there's Daniel H, JJ, Megan C, Nami, Psyche, and Tagalong. All these people are very, very wonderful, and I think they help us get this show going. So if you want to help, you can also join our Patreon support page. Just maybe we'll put a link somewhere. I don't know. Patreon/Frosty TV, and you can get mugs and sweatshirts and all kinds of little things. But I appreciate you just being here, and maybe I'll find a better place next week. We'll see. Until next time, remember, be good and stay safe. Bye.